Good evening, or depending on where you are in the world, good morning and good afternoon. It's European Champions League night for Celtic, and this is a Celtic state of mind. I'm Chris McElwain, and tonight I am joined gratefully by Ryan Pearce, all the way from the States. Ryan, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How can you not be in a good mood? Champions League night for Celtic. Gotta enjoy
Absolutely,
this moment.
exactly, and especially one that could mean so much tonight, because we are currently sitting on 8 points. 11 points seems to be the magic number that a lot of people are talking about, which would guarantee qualifications through to the playoffs. Now, if we do it tonight, we're doing it with games to spare. But let's be honest, we want to do it as early as possible, don't we? Just to get the pressure off. And actually, for a change, we might get Jim Moore out from behind the couch, and we might actually get to enjoy the remaining games without the same level of pressure. So it's a big one. It's certainly a big one tonight. I'll very quickly run through the lineups, Ryan, and then we'll get your thoughts on both the team selection tonight and how we line up. So 4 changes in Brendan Rodgers' side from the team that started at the weekend. The stalwart at the back is obviously Kasper Schmeichel. We then have a back four of AJ, Carter Vickers, Austin Trusty, and Greg Taylor. In midfield, we have Paulo Bernardo, Callum McGregor, and Rio Hatate. And then up front, on the wings, we have Kun and Maeda flanking Kyogo Furuhashi. So for me, I think that's quite a strong lineup. I think that's possibly one that many people may have predicted. There are a few question marks around some of those selections. I think the key ones maybe around left back. The position in midfield could be Engels, could be Bernardo, and then of course the choice up front between Ida and Kyogo. But what's your thoughts on the lineup?
I think that's our strongest lineup, to be honest. And I'm as much as I've had some concerns with some of the performances that Engels has had over the last few weeks, I'm not jumping on the bandwagon of a waste of money or anything like that. I think he will turn out good for us, and he's put in some great performances. But just Champions League away day, I think you need a little bit more of that balance. I think you need a little bit of support there for McGregor, and I think Bernardo provides that. So this is exactly the lineup I would have picked. So I'm happy about it. So hopefully this team can go out and get the job done.
Absolutely. Let us know what you think in the comments. There's quite a few comments coming in already. It looks as though we are being joined by probably not the same number as normal, because Paul John Dykes, as many of you will know, is currently at Barra's Art and Design, along with Acsom, Kev Graham, Quinny, and Tino from I think it's Celtic Exchange. I might have got that wrong. Apologies, Tino. But and Jackie McNamara joining hopefully a whole cadre of Acsom regulars at the venue. So I hope everyone really enjoys the game. Hopefully it'll be a cracking atmosphere. Just on a couple of the selections, there were question marks over Greg Taylor's performance at the weekend. Both him and Liam Scales were getting it tight in some of the comments during the match analysis that we were providing. But there were a lot of people talking on the socials. Would Valle come into play? Is he maybe more defensive minded? I'm of the opinion that I think they both have strengths going forward, but I don't think they're the strongest at defending, particularly with balls over the top or balls coming through the channels. Are you comfortable with Taylor playing tonight, or any concerns that we might have to see Valle coming on to help us manage the game?
I mean, I think it's great to have that option, and I think that's the beauty that we have this year. I think it was in one of the most recent post matches. I forget who said it. This is the first time in a while that I'm not, counting down the days until the January transfer window, because we're sitting here, begging for more bodies in, or begging for a different person to come in. So I think Taylor's gonna be great. I think in this type of a game, I feel and I hope that we're gonna take this a little bit more like an Atalanta style, where we're going to be tight at the back, and we're going to try to find opportunities to press at the right time and break their press. Because this is probably a huge game for them. I think their last two after this is Arsenal and Juventus, if I'm correct.
So very well be. Yep.
Yeah. So if they are looking at, and we thought that this is going to be a dead rubber game for them, but they've turned around after that initial drubbing against Bayern Munich. Where I want to see Taylor, and where I think he can be super helpful, is if he plays that inverted role, but he plays it a little bit deeper and provides almost that second defensive midfielder kind of support for McGregor. And I think that really helps break the press, and it helps kind of confuse the teams a little bit. I had made a comment in a previous match report that got slated, and I want to remake that comment and be very, very clear. I am in no way comparing Greg Taylor's quality to Philip Lahm's quality. However, Philip Lahm was a right back that slotted into center midfield, and I'm not sure if he played the inverted role, but I think he played both depending on the team needed, and I can see McGregor doing that for us. So being that person that we're playing it around the back, we're pinging it, and all of a sudden we can't find some space, and he pops up in the middle right near McGregor. That's been really successful for us in beating the press, and I think that's where we're going to have that success today. So I think that was absolutely the right selection.
Yeah, I think another element of that is also something we've spoken about. I think me and you've spoken about it before as well, is that the leadership that we want across the park. We're relying on players with experience. And you're looking for Greg Taylor to step up and show that leadership and that experience, because he has got a lot of tenure with Celtic. He's been part of a very successful team. I know that he gets criticism for certain elements of his play, sometimes justifiably, sometimes maybe a little bit over the top. We know that he can contribute going forward. We saw that most recently with the assist for Hatate recently, which was a tremendous bit of forward going play. We also saw the concerning elements of his game against Hibs, where maybe by virtue of wanting to go forward and contribute to the attack, leaving gaps, maybe leaving players like Liam Scales exposed. Hopefully Trusty maybe a little bit more settled tonight and can perhaps allow for Taylor to go forward. I think a lot of how we will play will depend on how Zagreb set up tonight. If they go on the front foot, there's a chance that they'll force us into being more defensive, and then maybe we play on the counter, which I think we're capable of. But if they sit back, it's about, well, how much do we risk going forward? Let's talk about some of the assets we've got further up the field. So another change was around Engels. Was Engels going to start? Obviously scored from open play at the weekend. Great to see him do that. Didn't really elevate his game after that. I think he was steady if unspectacular, and not really taking command of the park. And with bringing in Bernardo, we've got a player who is very experienced in the Champions League. I mean, he played, I think, most, if not all, of our Champions League campaign games last season. He's looked good almost every time he's appeared this season. Comfortable with that switch?
I'm comfortable. I was happy to see Engels get on the score sheet. I think it's good for his confidence. And it was interesting too, because he played a slightly different role because he was on the left side. He was kind of filling in for Hatate, and he had to link up with Taylor. He had to link up with Maeda. So it was a bit different, because we've seen a lot of success in certain games, maybe about a month ago, with Johnson and Kuhn and Engels on that right-hand side. I think this is very indicative of what we're trying to do. I think it's a lot more about ball retention. It's a lot more about picking your moments, knowing when to press. And I think Engels, which I'm confident with Brendan, he'll develop that, is I oftentimes I see him more as like a playing, not less part of the buildup and more being right on the shoulder of that defender. And that just leaves a lot of open space. And I think that's just a position that we don't want to be in. So for me, that's why I think this is completely the right choice. But again, in being spoiled for choices, we have the opportunity to bring off the bench our, highest paid signing ever. That's a active Belgium international who has contributed 3 assists in the Champions League. I cannot remember a time in a while in which we were this spoiled for choices. I think the closest I can think of is maybe Ange's first season towards the end, when we had, Jota, and we had Maeda, and we have why is his name escaping me, but Israeli winger on the right hand side, and even forced to bring in there we go. There it is. I don't know why, it just complete brain fart, but that was just in one position. Here we have multiple different areas. All right, if Taylor's not cutting it, bring in the left back from Barcelona who's been doing well. If Bernardo's not getting it, bring in Engels. If Kyogo's just not finding the space, then bring in it's just such a great opportunity for us that we have right now. So hopefully we can take it.
It is, and when you've got players of that quality, bringing them on late in a game where the defence could potentially be getting tired is a wonderful option. It's something I think we've not been able to take advantage of for a couple of years, as you've said. Interesting, just talking about the bench there. One name that's conspicuous by his inclusion is Luis Palma. Opportunity tonight, maybe last chance saloon if we need a bit of flair, a bit of trickery, a bit of something just outside the box. coming on. Do you think is there any chance left for Palma to come on and show that he's got something to offer this football club?
I don't think so, honestly. And for me, and I've mentioned this in the past, I was a right-footed, left-sided winger. I wore number 7 on my back. My fiance is Greek and he comes from a Greek team, even though he's Honduran and stuff like that. So there's so many reasons why that I wanted him to be successful at Celtic, and he showed his way. I think for me, the nail in the coffin for him has been Brendan. He was doing his best when Brendan was trying to figure out how to get this team to tick. And for me, I also think around that time, he didn't know how to get the most out of Maeda. And now we have Kuhn and Maeda, and whether it's Ida or Kyogo up front, and he's got this high press, he's got this intensity, he's got the team clicking that way. Bringing him in as a player is so different than what we have that almost the entire tactics of the team needs to change. And every player is going to bring something different to the team. But you want to be I think you want to be as a manager that we have a bunch of different systems, but if I'm bringing someone else in, then I need to make an impact. I can't have him make an impact and completely change the mindset and how we play. And I think that's his biggest problem there. There were hopes at the beginning of the season where I did see him putting a little bit more intensity. A couple of the goals he got in preseason came from high press and winning the ball back. But then injuries happen and you get out of the team and, you find yourself on the periphery and sometimes it's hard to get back. So there's been a lot of factors in there. And I just think probably what's best for him is to move on. And I think it's just going to be another example where we can take a player that's not contributing to the team and make tenfold what Rangers made on half their players selling last summer. So it's a great position for us to be in.
I love it. Subtle but effective. Excellent. I couldn't agree more. I mean, as much as a player's wearing the hoops or wearing the green of Celtic, I will support him until until he's no longer wearing that. But I do think that if he were to come on, it would be the greatest career renaissance of all time tonight. On and won the game, and I would certainly take that before the game starts. But I agree with you. I think there are players, as we approach this recruitment window, as you've rightly said, we are not under any great pressure, but I think there are certain positions that we could and perhaps should look to improve on. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Going back to the starting lineup then, there was some debate as to whether Ida might play tonight as ahead of Kyogo, but I think maybe that goal that Kyogo scored at the weekend, that deft touch, that Henrik Larsson-esque chip over the goalkeeper, may have just sealed the deal, I think, for Kyogo. Are you pretty comfortable with Kyogo starting tonight?
I'd be comfortable with either of them, and that's the beauty of where we are on the team. I think they bring different things to it, but they can both press, they can both be in the link-up play, they can both cause their own type of dynamic and with each player. And again, that kind of goes back to the point I was making with Palma, is yes, Kyogo and Ida are two completely different players in terms of their strengths and weaknesses, I feel. But for the most part, we don't need to change our game when they come on in. It just they can use those in those situations and provide chaos and changes for that back line. Kyogo for me, I know we talk about this a lot and agree. It's football's changed. It's a squad game. You have to rotate. Gone are the days where you have your true starting 11, except for maybe a few players like Kalmak. But I would have been happy with either of them. But Kyogo, he can lead that line. He can do the press. He can cause havoc in that back line, and I'm hoping he does that today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We're about 15 minutes in, so I'm just going to bring up some of the comments. Thank you very much indeed, everyone that's tuning in, particularly as you all knew that Paul John wasn't going to be here. Brian, I'm assuming they're tuning in for you, because they definitely wouldn't tune in for you. So. Let's bring up first comment. And actually, no break with tradition here, Jungle Lion. And first, fair play to Paul John, leaving Chris in charge with all the full-time, half-time, pre-match, post, all up and ready to go. I mean, he doesn't trust me with much else, to be honest. So everything's set up, ready to go. All I've got to do is just press a couple of buttons. That doesn't mean that I won't still accidentally ban someone at some point through, but I will try not to. Joe comes in. Good evening, boys and girls. Come on, you boys in green. Absolutely. Square sausage, Mick. Love that. Absolutely none of this slice nonsense. It's square sausage all the way for Glasgow boy. Hail, mon the hoops. Absolutely. Paddy, I've met Paddy, came across a really nice guy. I'm rapidly changing my opinion on Paddy the more that I host. Odds and double then I'm messing something up tonight, only messing Chris. Yeah, the only thing I messed up was bringing your comment up, Paddy. Mark E comes in, and this is a nice comment. That golden beauty of a top is a welcome blast for the past. Thank you, Mark. I honestly wish it was a genuine, authentic version, but it's a replica, a modern replica, sadly. But it is one I had as a little boy, so it's one that I couldn't resist. And lastly, Slabbering Cabbage comes in. Come on, you boys in green. I've got a wee 20 quid on the boys to win 3-1 with Kyogo to score 25-1. Not bad. Well, listen, I hope you're celebrating doubly later tonight if that comes true. There's obviously been some talk, Ryan, about Zagreb. I think they've not won in their past 5 games. They've issued the dreaded crisis communication to say, we're looking to resolve a crisis. But they are actually, when you look at the table, they're only 1 point behind us in the Champions League standings. I don't think we can afford to take anything for granted tonight. How are you feeling about how we should approach this game? Do we have the potential to go on the front foot, or do you think we should play this, as you said, a little bit more akin to Atalanta, try and contain, get control of the game, do the fundamentals, do the basics, and then hopefully maybe bag a goal or two during the later stages of the match?
I think when we've seen this team struggle and do well in different scenarios, it's when the entire team is in sync on the approach. Most extreme example and what went well was, I think, Atalanta. We had the right shape. We knew when to sit back. We knew when to press. We knew when to play that counterattack. And then the complete opposite, I felt like when we got destroyed by Dortmund, it was just no 2 player was on the right wavelength. So for me, it's going to need to be a little trust in the players to understand in this game, feeling it out. Is it something we can press up higher? Is it something we need to sit back? I expect us to be a little bit more pragmatic and look for those opportunities and not go all out. I get nervous with that crisis talk because I feel like, and the Hibs game is a great example, is every single time I hear about certain players, being injured, I'm not sure if they have a backup goalkeeper. That would be the kiss of death for me, because whenever we play against a team that has a backup keeper between the sticks, they always have a stormer, and I don't know why. So you can't get pulled into it. This is still a team that can cause some havoc. It's still going to be a tense atmosphere in that stadium. And it was a quick turnaround with the travel. So I think we just got to play our game, keep control of the ball, and kind of play it out from there. So, but I'm not sure. I mean, what's your thoughts? Do you feel we just go at their throats and try to get it done quickly?
Well, I think a comment I made on the post-match after the Hibs game was that I think we should go into every one of the Champions League games trying to get the 3 points, obviously. But my concern was that if I was a Zagreb scout, I would be looking at how Hibs played and how they managed to expose us at the back with the ball kind of over the top, with players being drawn out of position. There are opportunities to get in behind our defence. I think a big factor tonight, and us hopefully mitigating that, is going to be Carter Vickers. Carter Vickers, now, I know he's been under scrutiny at certain points. We really don't want him doing another pass back to the keeper between 6 to 8 if possible. Although, as we can see, 99 times out of 100 he gets that right, and there's no danger. But I just think hopefully that's the one anomaly done for this season. But I think having a player like Carter Vickers at the back, it's not just his individual attributes. I think it's the assurance that he provides other players around him. He seems to have great positional sense, great positional knowledge. I think he elevates the players around him. I think if they can have that collective discipline at the back, it'll be so important tonight. I'm hoping, as much as it can really yield rewards, I'm hoping Greg Taylor focuses, 70% in favour of defensive duty tonight, and 30% attacking, because there's always a cost. A little bit like Hatate with some of his passing. If you want to retain possession, Hatate's maybe not the best player because he has that maverick pass in him. But when that maverick pass comes off, you're potentially scoring a goal. So there is a trade-off. But I think tonight it's going to be more important that we keep our discipline tonight, that we show that how we played against Hibs was maybe a dip in our tactical discipline. And tonight I think we need to be back on it. So that would be my thoughts certainly around that. But we'll see how the game plays out. As usual, normally 5 minutes into kick-off, all of our pre-match thoughts goes before the window, depending on what happens. I'll run through the substitutes bench tonight because, as we alluded to earlier, it's nice to have strength and depth tonight. So we do have Arne Engels on the bench, a record signing in Belgian internationals. So it would be great maybe if he comes on late in the game to make a difference. We've got James Forrest, who is still seeking that goal to give him his consecutive scoring record. So you never know. He again made a huge difference coming on against Hibs, setting up the goal for Kyogo. Adamida, £9 million striker. I think he's starting to find form now, which is great. Has looked sharper, his touch has been better, looks to have shaken off some of that rustiness, and possibly maybe a little bit unlucky to miss out tonight, but he is a player who could come on and have an impact late in the game. Again, the strength just keeps coming. Luke McCowan, a player that very few of us probably felt too excited about when he came in, but look at the expectations he's completely subverted since coming in, and wouldn't it just be the wonderful icing on the cake if we not only get the 3 points, but McCowan comes on and has a really meaningful performance in the Champions League. I think as fans we can all resonate with how special that would be. We've mentioned Lewis Palma is on there. Paul John's favourite, Anthony Ralston, is there as well. Liam Scales, great backup for either Carter Vickers or Trusty. I think it's fantastic to have a third quality centre-back there. Sini Salo, who's not had any minutes tonight, but has, or to this point tonight, but has actually supplanted Scott Bain as the backup goalkeeper. So hopefully he may get more appearances than Scott Bain as we go. Alex Valle can come in for Greg Taylor, should we need him. And then we have Stephen Welsh and Yang on the bench as well. And Yang's shown glimpses, hasn't he? Shown glimpses of there's potential there. But again, maybe he's a contender for either being moved on one way or another in the January window, either on loan or maybe moved out to bring someone else in. He's got certainly his fans among the commenters and the wider fan base. I'm of the opinion he should go on loan. Ryan, I think he's a player that could develop because I think he's got some attributes that I think if he built around him would be really useful. He's got great pace. He does like to take a player on, which I like. I just think he needs to get his head up more often. I think he needs to read the play, and I think he needs to improve his final product. What's your thoughts on Yang? We've spoken about Palma, but would you put Yang in the same category?
I think was it Sean maybe that said recently, and I couldn't agree more, that he's been showing glimpses, but there's still no end product. And for me, I think a loan would make sense. A player like that, he's got to go someplace, maybe a place where he's head and shoulders above the rest of the other teams, and can just get some assists, get some goals, just get those numbers up, get that confidence, and just kind of build that muscle memory, so to speak, of how to do that. Because I've definitely been a little bit more impressed of how he's kind of come onto the games and been a little bit more direct in a way that is making the right decision. Not just putting his head down and going out of the team, but still, I to the best of my memory, I can't think of a scenario in which he has come in that's led to a goal and assist, either directly or indirectly. So it's still going to be good for him to kind of go out and do that. But if he does go out and do that, and we're not having that confidence, then that's another body I feel like we need to bring in from the wing. I feel like, not to pre-match already jump into what we should be buying in January, but I think we can all agree here that another winger is probably one of our priorities. Does that make it two if he goes out on loan? Is that too much? Is there not someone in the B team that can make that step up and kind of provide that cover? I don't know, but yeah, I think he is progressing, but he's not going to progress at the rate that we need him to. You're just kicking the can down the road. If he sits on the bench and comes on here and there, we'll just wait until the next window or maybe to the summer to ship on. But yeah, get the second half of the season, put him out on loan, get that experience, get some good numbers under his belt, and then maybe he can come back and have a preseason and hit the ground running.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think a loan is where I would where I position at the moment. But I do think if we do send both or either or both him and Palma out for in one way or another, I think we need to really look at bringing in quality will challenge our existing wingers and push them and elevate the rest of the team. We're approaching kick-off rapidly, so excitement is certainly building. 2 more questions, Ryan, or 1 more question before I get your prediction. But there was talk. There was talk on the bulletin today, and I've seen it mentioned in the socials. We obviously have a big game coming up the weekend as well, with the cup final coming up against our old rivals, however you want to term them. But would you prefer a win tonight or a win in the cup final if you had to choose? Now, I hate that question. It's similar to I think yesterday the question may have been asked, and I know a couple of the contributors said they hate the question as well. I want us to win both all day long, but if you had to choose, what would you take?
I would choose tonight because that guarantees us progression in the Champions League, and that shows us going the right direction. As much, I feel like unfairly this team, because of the success Celtic has had over the last 10 years, it's almost like winning the league used to be the main thing, and if you didn't, it was not a successful season. Now it's almost like if you don't get a treble, it's not a successful season. That it's the least important of all the competitions. And nothing would make me feel better than them getting a slight confidence bump, and we'll see all the things online about them being back, and all of a sudden all their problems are gone, and Clement is the next coming of Christ and everything like that. So and then just to remind them, no, you're not, and putting them back in their place. So I as much as losing to them, it just makes me not want to watch football for I can't play FIFA, I can't watch football, I can't look at scores for weeks afterwards. I would rather take progression in the Champions League than winning in the Diddy Cup.
Controversial, but justified. Really well. Good rationale to that. I like that. And one of the virtues of being host is I don't have to tell you what I think or not. I think I appreciate the sentiment there. I absolutely do, and I can completely see the logic. However, I just love, not only do I love winning trophies, but when you win your trophy against them, I do love it. So I'd probably, because we've still got chances in the Champions League to progress, I think we've still got a very much a winnable game against Young Boys, although I would prefer not to rely on that. I would still go for a win tonight, personally. But I loved the alternate view, which was great. Okay, we're almost at that time. The players are lining up, so I don't want to keep either of us on too long, and certainly not the guys in the chat. And thank you very much again to everyone who joined us. We're over 600 strong, which I think is understandable given it the kick-off time and the fact we've got the event at Bad tonight. Hope everyone's having a great time. Ryan, last question. Prediction for tonight, please.
I'm going 3-1.
3-1. I am going to go with 3-0 to Celtic. I just think with Casper at the back, I always fancy a clean sheet now. Until he concedes one, I'm going to give him clean sheets every single time. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me, Ryan. Thank you each and everyone who commented. Sorry we didn't get through all the comments. I'll try and get a few more in at halftime. Please join myself and Ryan, and we should have Sean Connolly as well at halftime, and we'll do our best to analyse what we hope will have been a strong Celtic performance. Until then, this has been Chris McElwain, and it's been a Celtic State of Mind. Thank you, everyone. One Hoops.
Cheers.